doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
וחצי בבוקר, 7 באוקטובר, אתה במוצב.
אצלנו ה7 באוקטובר מתחיל לפני 6:30. אני הייתי לוחם במחלקת מרגמות בגדוד 13, גולני, ובאותו לילה אני, יותם סרור, הסמל שלי תמר בן יהודה, זיכרונו לברכה, שלושתנו עושים לילה לבן. הרשינו לעצמנו בשבתות וחגים במיוחד, לעשות לילה לבן עד לכוננות עם שחר, ואתם יודעים, יש לנו זמן לישון, מחלקת מרגמות, עד לכוננות הבאה. אז ב-5:20 בבוקר אנחנו יושבים ליד הקשר כדי לא להעיר מאזין, והסמג"ד שלי, ניר בוינפלק, שגם הוא נפצע קשה, וברוך השם הוא שרד, פתאום עולה בקשר בהודעה מוזרה. כל התחנות, לא יודע למה, לא יודע איך, משהו בסגנון הזה, אין סיור בגדר עד 9 בבוקר.
באיזה שעה זה?
5:20 בבוקר.
כל תחנות נשארים כאן משנה, אז מבחינת קרקע ואויב אין לנו דברים משמעותיים. מבחינת כוחותינו יצאה הנחיה מהחטיבה שעד השעה 9 בבוקר מול הערכת המצב, אף כלי לא מגיע לבורמה. אני חוזר שוב, עד 9 בבוקר ואל מול הערכת המצב, אף כלי לא לבורמה. נמצאים בנקודות זינוק אחוריות, מהנחיית חטיבה, לא יודע בדיוק למה, לא שואל יותר מדי, זאת ההנחיה, זה מה שאנחנו עושים.
קצת לפני שהכל מתחיל. ואיתמר דופק לנו פרצוף כזה של מה? ואתה יודע, אנחנו חיילים פשוטים סך הכל, לוחמים, לא מפקדים ולא קצינים שנוכל לשאול שאלות, זו הוראה של הסמג"ד. מקבלים את הפקודה הזאת ולא שואלים שאלות, הורדת פקודה רגילה. ובאמת אחרי שעה, 6:30, פתאום אזעקות.
תראי, אני אגיד לך את האמת, אני חייתי עם זה מה7 באוקטובר ומאוד חששתי לדבר על זה, ושהגעתי לכנסת זה היה אחרי תקופה ששאלתי כמה אנשי צבא בכירים מה בעצם קרה שם, והיו כאלה שבהתחלה אמרו לי, תשמע, היה יום צליפה של נונטטים על הגדר, לכן לא רצינו לשלוח חיילים כדי שלא ייפגעו. ואז עם הזמן קצת נפל לי האסימון ואמרתי, רגע, אם יש יום צליפה, איך יכול להיות שאני סך הכל 200 מטר מהגדר לא יודע שיש איום? איך יכול להיות שחברים שלי נלחמים בלי וסט עם תחתונים וגרביים ואף אחד לא יודע שיש משהו? אנחנו סך הכל 200-300 מטר מהגדר. ואז זה עוד הפעם ישב לי בראש, ובאמת הזמינו אותי פתאום לכנסת. הרגשתי שזו ההזדמנות באמת לפתוח את הנושא הזה ולדבר עליו ולהבין בעצם מה קרה שם. והנה, את אומרת, כמו שאת אומרת, הרבה אנשים זה נשמע להם תמוה ומה בעצם קרה שם. ואנחנו עוד פעם חוזרים לזה, ואני אגיד לך את האמת, איילה, אני חי עם איזשהו חור במוח מאז 7 באוקטובר, שמשהו בלב מרגיש לי תשמעי, אני לא יודע מה היה שם, אני רוצה להבין מה קרה, כמו כולם.
תראה, הסמג"ד לא היה איום צליפה, כי הסמג"ד אומר אין לי מושג למה, ולא למה, ואיום צליפה יש הרבה פעמים. הוא אומר את זה בזמן אמת, ב5:20 בבוקר, מישהו אמר לו להגיד ככה, הוא קיבל הוראה, בלי הסבר. וזה...
נכון, אז אנחנו בתור חיילים, שאנחנו שומעים את הדבר הזה, אז כמובן אנחנו ממלאים פקודות. זה כן נשמע לנו קצת מוזר, אבל חיילים בשטח, ואנחנו כבר בקו הזה כמעט חצי שנה, וקצת פה ושם הפסדים. את יודעת, מהפסד ל7 באוקטובר יש פה...
הפרות סדר. הפסדים.
כן, מהפרות סדר, אמת, נכון. מהפרות סדר למצב, לאירועים כמו של 7 באוקטובר, אנחנו מדברים פה על, את יודעת, משהו שהוא הזוי, שהוא מאוד קיצוני, כדי לחשוב שיום אחד נגיע לדבר הזה.
דיברתם ביניכם מאז? אחרי שהתפרסמה ההקלטה שלו. דיברתם ביניכם מי שנשאר?
אז כמובן שדיברנו על זה הרבה פעמים, וניסינו לבדוק את זה, ואמרתי לך מה אמרו לי כל מיני אנשי צבא. חשבתי הרבה פעמים לדבר על זה, לא לדבר על זה, ובאיזשהו שלב גם התחלתי לשאול את ההיגיון שלי. רגע, אם אומרים לי שיש איום צליפה, כמו שאת אומרת, איך יש איום? אם הוא אמר, אני לא יודע למה ואיך, וגם את יודעת, אמרתי, אולי אני לא זוכר טוב, אולי זה, ופתאום ההקלטה יצאה. את יודעת, יש לי פה אחריות, אני לא יכול לדבר על דבר כזה
חלילה,
בטלוויזיה,
ברור.
ויש השלכות למה שאני אומר. אז פתאום הדבר הזה צץ, וההקלטה הזאת התפרסמה, וזה כמו פלשבק החזיר אותי ממש לאותו יום. ומה אני אגיד לך, יאללה, כמוני, כמוך, כמו כל עם ישראל, אני רוצה להבין מה קרה ב7 באוקטובר, איבדתי המון חברים, נפצעתי קשה, אני כל יום נפגש עם המשפחות, עם ההורים, ובאמת, את לא יודעת איזה כואב זה להכיל את זה וללוות אותם, ואנשים רואים אותי, שלום שטרית הפצוע, הם לא יודעים כמה דברים אתה מנסה לעשות, אני כל יום קם למלחמה, אני מנסה להמציא את עצמי מחדש, אני מנסה לעזור למשפחות האלה, כל יום זה מלחמה בפני עצמה, ואנחנו נלחמים,
גם
אנחנו לוחמים.
המלחמה בלי הרגל, את מתכוון על זה, על לחיות חיים חדשים?
כן, בדיוק, וגם להמציא את עצמך מחדש, להתקדם בחיים, לא לחיות את הדבר הזה. את יודעת, אנחנו בסוף זכיתי בחיים, אני צריך גם להתקדם בחיים, אני לא יכול להישאר תקוע באותו מקום, אין לי רגל, איזה מסכן. אני רוצה להבין מה קרה שם, ופתאום הדבר הזה שיצא, התציר הזה, זה מפחיד אותי מאוד. אני מקווה שיהיה לנו תשובות יותר ברורות בהמשך, ולא לקפוץ למסקנות, ולא להדאיג מדינה שלמה, אבל כן חשוב מאוד שיהיה פה תשובות חד משמעיות, ומי שצריך לשלם את הדין, שישלם את הדין. כל כך הרבה נרצחים, חטופים. זה משהו שאני בתור חייל ששירת בגזרת עזה, אני אומר לך, על כל פיפס קטן קפצנו לגדר, על כל דבר קטן. זה מפחיד אותי לחשוב מה קרה שם.
Welcome back to the SCIF. We are live from Istanbul still, and we are on the ground doing a lot of reporting on the attacks on Christianity. We'll be bringing out more of that over the next few days to weeks, but there's so much going on right now in the world that we decided to delay some of the history lessons and what's happening to Christianity in the past, currently, and in the future, we think, for what's happening today. And we've got a packed show. There is a massive info war going on between Israel and those opposed to what Israel is doing. So we're going to have the horse's mouth. Brent Beecham is going to be here. He's a former IAF pilot and knows what's going on in the ground in Israel. And we're going to talk to him and get the truth. You saw in the cold open there, an Israeli soldier in front of the Knesset who said that he was ordered on October 7th, which is when the Hamas attacks happened, to withdraw from his position. And, you know, some are saying that war was engineered and that the forces were told to leave. It is a true fact that the Israeli Defense Forces didn't get to that area until hours later, after many had been slaughtered. And of course, the narrative is that the war was started so that they could take land for greater Israel. We're going to ask the questions. So that's what we're going to do today. In the second hour, we've got Ukraine SitRep, another hot area that is so much going on, so much being released. We've got Pete Blaber, who is up on this very strongly right now, and he's going to bring a lot of what's happening in Ukraine because there's so much going on. We can't follow it all, but we've got experts in the field that can. And then I think we're going to have Kat Stansell on later in the show. She's had some equipment issues, but we got to talk. We're going to try to talk about the RPOF, the Republican Party of Florida, and how it is really repressing the grassroots in Florida, and it's quite shocking. So there's a lot going on, a lot happening. I'm L Todd Wood. Today is the last day of July, July 31st, and this is your mission brief. And there is the call to prayer here in Istanbul, so bear with us. Was October 7th engineered? We're going to talk about that. Zelenskiy wants regime change in Russia. Trump confronts the BRICs. Bernegger said there's 10,000 arrests coming, and the feds are keeping rates stable. So we'll just listen to a little of the call to prayer here in Istanbul, and then we'll take a break.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our CDM.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and Ira. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. The call to prayer is still going here, so give us a few seconds. I think it'll be over, and we'll continue with the show. We're here live in Istanbul, and the call to prayer for Islam is happening. Well, I think that's it. So let's get into the story, shall we? Well, it's not it. Hold on one second. The first story I want to talk about is Trump goes hard against the BRICs. This is huge because Trump is essentially challenging Russia, China, and India. And the issue seems to be that India and Russia won't make deals with Trump. India is resisting a trade deal after Trump closed a trade deal with South Korea, Japan, and multiple other countries, the EU. But India has been evasive. They have a lot of big tariffs against against the USA. And so Trump says, I don't care what India does with Russia. They can take their dead economies down together for all I care. We have done very little business with India. Their tariffs are too high, among the highest in the world. Likewise, Russia and the USA do almost no business together. Let's keep it that way and tell Medvedev, the failed former president of Russia, who thinks he's still president, to watch his words. He's entering very dangerous territory. So you have India, who is keeping tariffs high, won't make a deal with Trump. You have Russia, who will not end the war in Ukraine for their own national interest's sake. Obviously, they're taking care of their own national interests, and not Trump, and not the U.S., and not Ukraine, and not EU. But that's angered Trump. And you do have a deal with China, and there is a talk of China and Trump, the leader of China, Xi Jinping, and Trump meeting soon somewhere. So this is big, though, because we think it's a new economic Cold War if this doesn't get settled, because you're going to have the BRICs on one side, the U.S. and the U.S. dollar system, the old system on the other side, and who comes out in the end. The BRICs control a lot of the natural resources globally and commodities, and the West has the U.S. dollar and military might. So that is kind of where it stands, but China is rising militarily, but their economy is in big trouble. So that's a huge story. We're going to stay on it, but I just wanted to highlight it to your attention. You saw in the cold open, IDF soldier testifies he was told not to patrol along the Gaza border until 9 a.m. on the morning of October 7th. This is really significant. We've asked the question. We don't know what happened, but there's enough smoke that some questions should be asked. I've been to that border. I was rocketed on that border in Sderot several years ago. I was sitting on top of a yeshiva looking out at Gaza, and the rockets, the Kashim rockets started landing all around me. We've played that video before here on the SCIF, so I know the border. But you know what? There's some questions that need to be asked. So the IDF soldier testifies he was told to not patrol along the border. The army did not go down to the border for hours after that, and people were bringing their own weapons in their own cars, trying to get down to help the settler or the kibbutzes along the border where most of the killing took place. So the questions continued to need to be asked, and this is an IDF soldier in the Knesset talking about what may have happened. So we're going to ask Brent Beecham all of that at the end of the bottom of the hour here. Again, just a lot happening. We want to get this all to you. Bernegger, Peter Bernegger, our good friend up in Wisconsin, who works closely with Chris Gleason, is saying that he's been talking about arrests coming for some time, and he's staying on his word there. And he says possibly 10,000 arrests are coming for sovereign fraud inside the U.S. Let's look at this article a minute. It's on CDM.press. Trump put this out. Until this happens, nothing will change. There's a lot of propaganda or information warfare coming out of the White House now against the deep state, against those that did steal the election, against those that tried to remove Trump, against those that have stolen a lot from the U.S. government and the American people. But Bernegger says that he knows that Trump knows our elections were stolen. He knows who did it. It's the CIA, along with countless tentacles, making a very long list, which makes it sovereign fraud. He's been pushing this and staying on it for years. Arrests are coming, says Bernegger. For timing, see my post of June 20th, 2025, thousands of arrests. Personally, I think it will be over 10,000. That's how bad it is and why it is taking longer than anyone wants. People have been flipping, though. It's international, national, then down to your local election officials. Now, we've seen this nationally, internationally, and down to the local elections, especially in the swing states like Georgia, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania. Even in Florida, the corruption is deep, which we've defined very deeply with Chris Gleason, who works tightly with Peter Bernegger. Bernegger says countless politicians are in on it, many Democrats, but Republicans also. It is treason, along with a host of other crimes, such as sedition, conspiring to defraud the U.S. government, and the list goes on and on. They wanted to control the world. The U.S. was standing in their way. Noting the statute of limitations has not run out, where there are many felony crimes which have 10-year statutes of limitations, for example. Another example, most are unaware that crimes involving foreign evidence requests can extend 5-year limits another 3 years. There are more. I and many others are burning the midnight oil to provide as much information as possible to help in bringing these sick psychos to justice. This is huge. obviously something is going on. I'm getting a lot of people saying that, you know, this may be it, that the disclosures are happening fast now. So we're going to try to get Bernegger on. I don't know if that'll happen. We've had him on before, but he's gotten to where he's so busy working on all this stuff that he's really hard to get. But we'll probably have, at least, if not Bernegger, we'll have a proxy, someone who's knowledgeable of what's going on up there, and we will get you that information. This story is not going away. I think it is only just starting. Another story we want to bring to you from the Manhattan, our New York paper. The Fed recap. Powell says no decision on interest rates in September, must wait to see tariff impact on inflation. So obviously Powell is working against Trump, working against America, working against the American economy, working against the middle class, those that need to finance houses. Interest rates are too high. Inflation is zero. The Fed's mandate is low inflation and stable currency. We have both of those, and there's no reason for them not to drop rates, except they are trying to hurt the economy. And we've had Tom Teague on, who has gone through the people inside on the Fed board who are making this decision, that are all have really liberal and leftist progressive backgrounds, that are obviously, not all of them, but many of them. And it's obvious that the Fed is working against the American people. Where this goes, I don't know, but it's huge. And it's something that we have to talk about. So we are going to talk about it, and we're going to have Teague and others who are going to stay with us on this story and bring us the latest on the Fed, the interest rates, and all of it. With that, I'm going to take another break, and then we'll come back and we'll have Brent Beecham and really dig into Gaza. This Gaza story is not going away, folks. Israel's losing the PR war. We said that yesterday. They're losing it on the information coming out of Gaza, at least the PR campaign from the other side, with starving children, with shootings at the aid stations, with the annexation talk, and now this IDF and other soldiers who've been on the ground who say that things are not what they seem. So we'll be right back. What a day. We're live from Istanbul, and we will be back with more right after this.
Celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7. I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down, and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah, we'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah, all the men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies, they will all turn out and will all...
Welcome back to the SCIF. We're live from Istanbul, and we're going to be doing some more history. We had some of the history of the Hagia Sophia yesterday and the attacks on Christianity in the region over the last centuries, and still going on today. One thing we're going to go into this later this week is the government of Recep Erdogan and what the people think of him and what is going on in country. There's fascinating stuff happening here. You have Turkey, which is the old Ottoman Empire. You have Armenia, where we just were, with a Christian empire, or an old Christian empire that's crumbling and being attacked on all sides by Azerbaijan, by Iran, by Turkey. You have Syria, which Turkey just installed a government of an ISIS or Al-Qaeda leader, Golani, in the government, who immediately killed Christians, supported by the U.S. Intelligence services, obviously, because that's been happening for some time under Obama. And so you had all of this going on, and you've got Israel south of that, who is worried about Turkey. You've got Turkey trying to move into Syria, taking over air bases. You've got Israel bombing the air bases. You've got Israel talking about going to war with Turkey and vice versa. It's just a huge, huge, huge mess. You've got Russia down in here trying to get back into Syria with the Damascus government. We're trying to bring you all of this because it's all tied to history. And if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And it looks like we're doing a big repeat of the whole World War I scenario going on here with the great powers fighting for territory. You've got Crimea involved in this, the old Crimean War. You've got Tsarist Russia. I mean, a very similar setup inside the Russian Federation now with Vladimir Putin. Not communist, but more almost a Tsarist regime who is protected by an oligarchy, who is trying to control resources and influence in the regions. You've got Ukraine right there with Russia tied into Turkey taking weapons, Israel giving weapons to Ukraine, Israel giving weapons to Azerbaijan. So all of this is of a piece. We're going to try to boil it down for you so you're smart and know what is going on in this region, because guess what? This is where the next big war is coming, and we're going to try to bring it to you. I'm going to bring in Brent Beecham. I just saw him come into the green room, and we're going to talk about Israel. A lot going on, and I'm going to bring in Brent now. Brent, my friend, thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it. I know you're a busy developer down there, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to us. I thought of you because I trust you, and I want to get your opinion on what's going on. Let's start with the soldier in the Knesset recently talking about he received orders to pull off the border prior to the October 7th. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously the timing and the circumstance and the outcome would lead you in a couple of different directions. One would be a conspiracy of, leadership in Israel trying to create a situation where, they could go to war with Gaza, preserve their government. And I it's almost inconceivable to me that the conspiracy could go that high, all the way down to, generals in the field. The other possibility is, unfortunate circumstance that the day that they chose to tell everyone to stand down, which was Simchat Torah, which is a pretty big holiday. That was one of the reasons why, if you remember, they had a lot of forces that were either deployed to the West Bank, assuming there would be some sort of activity in the West Bank against the settlements. And then, the other part would be the government has a lot of religious members in the actual higher part of the ministry of, the internal security and so on. We're all, religious characters. So they may have had some influence to say, look, we'd like this holiday to be, observed to the maximum we could. Don't go down there. And cause, just don't go cause trouble today. There's no point to stirring stuff up. So, I mean, I think those are the two choices you have at this point. It is disturbing, though.
Well, let me ask you this. Obviously, Israel's in a major war on multiple fronts. A lot of kids have died, Israeli soldiers, men and women, been hurt. What are the people thinking right now? I mean, Joe Bag of Donuts on the ground in Israel. What are they thinking?
Well, again, I think that on one hand you have a large majority of people that would say, let's get the hostages home.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say at all costs, but you
Mhm.
know, they were willing to pay a heavy price to make that happen. The unfortunate part is they're helping Hamas play into that international sympathy where let's end the war right now, no matter what, leave Hamas in power. And then Hamas does, you know, Charlie Brown with the football.
Yeah.
You know, they go to negotiations in Qatar, and then at the last minute go, never mind.
Yeah. What is you mentioned Hamas? They have a long history, and you and I've talked about this for years. They call it, what do they call it?
Hollywood.
Hollywood. Like, so you have like, you know, bodies under sheets, and all of a sudden they start moving. Are we done yet? You know, that kind of stuff. So
Right.
they're very good at that propaganda.
Absolutely.
But what is happening there? I think Israel's losing the PR war right now.
Absolutely.
I think that's just a fact.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Yeah, they played the game wrong here. They should have they should never have brought up food aid. They should never respond to claims of food aid issues. They should point the finger back at Hamas for starting this war. They should continue to play, you know, hey, you could end the war any day now. All you have to do is, you know, surrender. Israel has I don't know why they keep falling into this. Every time they seem to fall into this kind of thing, and the facts are that they're pulling images from the Syrian civil war, from the famine in Yemen, from you know, they're using the same doll 10 times with some guy holding this dead baby, which is not a, you know, when they examine it, they found kids who have genetic diseases like cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy, and so on, and they're, you know, and those are kids who have been treated in Israel prior to the war, and they go, oh, look, they're starving, and then, you know, you go out of frame of that picture, and, you know, here's his brother sitting on the side, and he looks like he's pretty, you know, well fed.
Yeah.
So it's you know, and in fact, the U.S. has fallen into that trap. The GHF guys have been accused of shooting civilians, you know, unprovoked, and then there's video evidence of that not happening.
So that's the humanitarian NGO that has Americans involved on the ground to deliver food, because they were trying to take that away from the UN, because the UN was complicit in some of the other stuff with Hamas.
Well, and the other thing is, you know, UN just drives a truck in and goes, here you go, and Hamas, you know, shoots them up, takes the trucks and drives off, or there's a, you know, feeding frenzy, which is completely uncontrolled, and, you know, ends up in injuries and deaths. So that's the UN approach, and then you have these PR stunts where the, you know, Egyptians or the Jordanians fly, you know, one airplane over, drop, you know, a couple of tons of supplies in via parachute. Same result. You know, they drop them in the wrong place. The amount of aid that's actually been dropped is a fraction, maybe 2 trucks worth. You know, 2 well-defended trucks from GHF drive in and hand it out in an orderly fashion is infinitely more effective. But again, Israel keeps falling into these traps, and I'll tell you, I've run into people who are MAGA who will tell me that Israel is shooting civilians and they're killing kids, and I'm like, I can't. I mean, these are people that I think you and I would align with pretty closely, and the reason that is being fed to them is guys like Tucker or Candace Owens, who have suddenly turned. I don't know where they're going with their message. It's certainly off base from where I'm at.
Well, let's talk. What is the goal? What does Israel want to do here? Do you have any idea? Because I think that's part of the problem, is because what is the objective?
Yeah, I mean, the objective has been the same since day one: get rid of Hamas. And I think that they had hoped that international pressure would end the war and force Hamas to leave. The problem is that Hamas is a death cult. One of their leaders once said, "We love death more than the Jews love life," and that's a powerful message. Not only are they willing to sacrifice, they hope to sacrifice every man, woman, and child in Gaza, with the end result being that Israel is a pariah state, and so they have no intention of surrendering. Steve Witkoff came away from recent meetings, and Trump's tweeted similar messages that Hamas has no intention of surrender, and so now the last area that hasn't ever been attacked is probably where the hostages are. And so the risk of ended up either killing by accident or Hamas murdering them is to taking that last piece of Gaza. So
Yeah.
it's a no-win, but again, I go back and I say, let's examine this in historical perspective. What did we do to Berlin? The Soviets and the American and British forces just completely devastated Berlin in an attempt to get to the German high command, to get to Hitler. And we killed 6 million German civilians during the war, intentionally or unintentionally, doesn't matter. It's just the part of war that we can't, in a built up area, you just can't get around. We did the same thing as U.S. forces did that in Fallujah and Mosul and other places where, I don't want to call it indiscriminate killing, but if you're going to win a battle, you can't play, picking them off one at a time. And, Hamas
Let
has
me
set
ask
up
you-
all this intentionally to kill civilians.
What do you have any idea the force structure Hamas has left on the ground? I've heard it's anywhere from 20 to 40,000 people in the tunnels that are armed. Do you have any idea?
I don't remember recent numbers, but I don't think that they have that kind of force left, and they certainly aren't in an organized force. And every time they appoint a new leader, that new leader gets killed. So you can have all the forces in the world you want. The Germans surrendered in World War II with millions of men under arms, but the high command said, enough, we're out. So that's, they don't have any leadership left, I think. And obviously it's a whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
You kill one and then somebody comes up, but eventually you run out of commanders, and they've run out of commanders and run out of territory. The last thing they have is their own civilian hostages and Israeli hostages that remain. That's the only thing they have left.
I read that they're going to try to take more Israeli hostages because that's a currency, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that's possible at all?
Yeah. I've seen video, and again, I don't. We're not army guys, but I've always heard you don't have armor without infantry, and in a lot of cases you see armored vehicles, tanks included, that are rolling around Gaza without guys, without soldiers around them, and in a couple of cases Hamas threw grenades inside and killed everybody. They tried to take a guy off a D9 that was I don't know if he was taking down buildings that were collapsing or if they were clearing something, but they ended up trying to take a guy that was on a D9 and ended up killing him. So I think they would, given the right opportunity to pop out of a hole and grab somebody, they certainly would.
Yeah.
But they can't have been very successful at it because they've not grabbed anybody since October 7th, and Israel's had tens of thousands of soldiers roaming around in Gaza since then.
What do they want with Gaza and the West Bank, for that matter? Ben-Gvir says we're going to annex it all. The Knesset voted that way. I don't know what the legal procedure is, but what do you think?
So the annexation is to allow the application of Israeli law within the territory. So the city like Ariel, I believe, is still under military governance. So by extending Israeli law, then they would apply the law as anybody there would be applied as if they were a citizen or a resident of Israel. So I think that's I think that's the reason why they annexed more than anything, was just to get rid of the military governing body. And then Ben Gvir, I think there's certain elements within Israel that would love to take the West Bank and kick everybody out, or take Gaza and kick them all out. I think that's a fringe. I think most Israelis would say, some form of autonomy. They've offered them states numerous times with land swaps that would allow 99% of the land of Gaza and the West Bank to be in a Palestinian state. They fall down on the demilitarized state. They want their own army. Again, how do you trust somebody whose sole mission is to kill Jews, to eradicate the state of Israel? I don't know how you allow a state like that to be formed.
Yeah.
In the 60s and 70s, after Israel conquered the West Bank, and again, they conquered it out of a defensive war in Gaza as well, and had asked Jordan not to enter the war. And Jordan thought, well, it sounds like we're winning. Let's jump in and grab some territory. And they did, and Israel, ended up defeating them in the field, and recaptured East Jerusalem and reunified the city. So all those things happened. After that, most of the Arabs that lived in these villages were pretty satisfied. As long as you leave us alone, we leave you alone, we'll go about our business. And in fact, there was a very powerful tribal leader in the West Bank who more or less said, the PA has failed us. We're willing to lay down our arms. We're willing to do business with Israel. And I think if there were more people like that, but they're still led by the same corrupt PLO leaders that inherited it from Arafat.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last election they had? 15 years ago?
Yeah. Interesting. Well, what else do you want to get out, Brent? I just wanted to get you on and let you just kind of get out what needs to get out. So is there anything else that needs to be said?
No, I would encourage everyone to read a little bit more deeply into the things that they see in the press. Mm-hmm. The BBC, the New York Times, all of these guys are pushing a message, and the message is very anti-Israel, and they're falling for the quote, Gaza Health Ministry. Who's the Gaza Health Ministry? It's Hamas. Mm-hmm. There is no Gaza Health Ministry. It's whatever they decide they're pushing out. So I would really, really encourage people to do a little bit more investigating and quit reading little Instagram, 1-minute posts about some poor Palestinian that was killed. It's tragic that any single life is been killed in this war. But Hamas brought it upon themselves, and I've seen recent videos. There's an Israeli journalist who went into that last area of Gaza that was still functioning. And by the way, there were markets, people selling fruit and fish and whatever. It's super expensive, but there's food. And that guy interviewed these people, and they were cursing Hamas for the attack. That they said, if we could leave, if they would open up the gates. By the way, Egypt has closed their border with them. They could leave from there. They said if we could leave, we would never come back. They cursed the day they were born in Gaza. So it's not Israel against Palestinians. This is Israel against Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. And anybody who is signing up to support this war against Israel is supporting the very things that they claim to be against: fascism. It's a fascist Islamist state that is intent on one thing, and that's killing the idea of the West.
Brent, thank you very much. I'll let you go back to work down in
Appreciate
Atlanta. All right, take care, my friend. We'll have you back. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. We are in the world of medicine very acquainted with many modalities, but probably the one most familiar with everybody would be two things: homeopathy and herbs, maybe some nutrients too, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing. Now, we do know a lot about the drugs because we have to find out what drug you're taking affects you and what nutrient it depletes you of, because most every drug pharmacy product will deplete something. So we have been trained and we have a database that we can check into that says this is going to take your B12 away. The pharmaceutical company cannot patent organic substances made by the body. You're not born short of Advil. You're not born short of Ritalin.
Yeah.
You can be born short of insulin, right? Mm-hmm. The answers to staying healthy and keeping away from even SARS or any of those things getting into you is staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You and I get sick because our terrain gets out of balance. Well, that's the same thing in the soil. You and I are made from this thing called dirt. And when we get out of balance, we have the same thing happen. Weeds start to grow in our body. Right? And that's what we want in our body. We want nutrients that we don't understand how to get well enough yet because our suppliers are lacking knowledge on nutrient density foods.
So this is what drove you to develop this, was your knowledge of this, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Welcome back to the SCIF. We're live from Istanbul. Thanks for staying with us. We're going to be having a lot more history and understanding of the attacks on Christianity, the genesis of it here and all over the world. We're going to be traveling to other locations, where possibly Syria and some other places, to really report on the attacks on Christianity worldwide, because we think it's important. Nobody else is talking about it. It's going to be one of our big focuses going forward. And we're here in Istanbul to do exactly that. But there's so much going on in the world that we wanted to bring you some of the global geopolitics that's happening right now. And we'll get to, we'll be back in the States here at the end of the month, or the end of the week, the team. And then we're going to, the month and the week. And we will be reviewing all the content that we put together. And we'll be releasing a lot of stuff over the next few weeks from Armenia and in Turkey and other regions. So stay tuned for that. By the way, we're the only ones talking about this that I can see. I mean, there's other niche players in Armenia, et cetera, that have done a lot of good reporting, but nobody's talking about this concept on a global scale like we are. And that's just CDM being who we are. We're always early. We're always on the interesting stories early, sometimes years early. But this has been going on for some time, and it's important. Another issue that is really freaking people out right now is the mRNA stuff that's being allowed to continue inside the U.S. government, inside the FDA, inside HHS with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And it's curious as to why that's happening. We think we know why. There's people around Trump that are pro-vaccine, pro-big pharma, pro all of this mRNA, DNA changing stuff. And it's not cool. We're going to play a little bit of Dr. Ben Tapper from the Wellness Company, because I want to stay on this subject too and keep it in the front of people. So we're going to play this. And at the top of the hour, we have Pete Blaber with Ukraine SitRep. So stay with us. We're honored to be with Dr. Ben Tapper of the Wellness Company today, and he's agreed to speak with us about a multitude of subjects. Thanks, Doc, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Todd, thanks for having me.
So I just noticed before we started that we are co-plaintiffs in the lawsuit with CHD against the Trusted News Initiative. Tell people what happened to you. I know what happened to me, but what happened to you?
Well, I don't know if we have enough time.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Give us the elevator pitch.
Yeah, so I'll give you a 30,000 sky foot view. Basically, I bucked the system. I've been, going against the grain here for many years on the vaccine topic, and so I would put on lectures for over a decade and talk about how the government's manipulating data, lying to the people. Imagine that. The government lies.
Surprise.
Right. Surprise, surprise. Some people believe in the government. They're like, oh, the government would never lie to us. I'm like, there's no hope for those people at this point. It's
No,
just like,
they're just lost.
Yeah, it breaks my heart. But, and so we put on a seminar, for every year about how, every year the National Vital Reporting System manipulates data to coerce people and scares people half to death. And in the fall of 2019, this is 2 or 3 months prior to anyone knowing about COVID, we held another seminar saying, listen, something big is coming our way. We need to be proactive here. You have the ACIP, which at the time claimed that, they can't force vaccinate, but they can force compliance. And I was raising the question, well, how are they going to do that? Right.
Yeah.
And so, and not only that, the legislation, we had bills coming our way to take away our freedoms when it comes to refusing a vaccine. And so that was my patriotic duty. I felt called to really stand in the gap here and buck the system and say, no, this is not right. And then when COVID hit, that was really for me. I felt so compelled and convicted to just shout at the rooftops, like, this is the Trojan horse that they're going to use to implement a lot of this legislation. And I said, make no mistake, this will lead to a vaccine. Yeah. That was in March. We held another seminar, or February, I'm sorry. And then in August of 2020, we had a mask hearing in Omaha, and I spoke out very passionately. I prayed, Lord, let these words travel far and wide. And he answered that prayer in a big way, because within 24 hours, that speech went all around the world. It had 3 million views. And then 2 months after that speech went viral, I was labeled one of the disinformation dozen. They said I was one of actually 13 people. That's government math for you. They said I was one of 13 people responsible for 65% of the misinformation on the vaccine. And I said, dang it, I was shooting for 100%. It's not misinformation, it's missing information. So,
well, what I ask people, a lot of people, this: what do you think is the objective in the background? I think one, DOD was running some kind of clinical trial without informed consent on the mRNA stuff. I think it's a depopulation agenda. I mean, what do you think is really, why did this happen, I guess, from your perspective?
Well, if you look back in the contract of Pfizer and DARPA, they have back, I believe it was 2013, DARPA hired Pfizer to perform groundbreaking vaccine research about the genome altering technologies and therapeutics with, believe CRISPR-Cas9 technology. I mean, that's molecular splicing. They're playing God with our DNA. But to your point of depopulation, you say those buzzwords on social media, you're gonna get flagged for censorship. But it's like, I do believe that. I mean, Bill Gates has said, like, we can lower the population through vaccination because he thinks that healthy people reproduce less. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't even make sense from a health standpoint when, people with chronic disease don't reproduce as much as healthy people. It doesn't make any sense. I digress. But my point is, I do think that there is some depopulation occurring. I mean, if you look at the pharmacokinetic study that came out of Japan, I think 2 or 3 years ago, that talked about how post-vaccination, there were 64 ovarian toxins post-vaccination. I mean, that's deliberate, right? And it's not just by accident. Or coincidence. It's deliberate. And, and so not only that, the the cardiovascular issues that we have now in the reporting system, myocarditis cases at an all-time high. A physician would see, a couple cases of myocarditis in his whole career prior to COVID. Now it's on the regular, and it's in healthy populations. So why is that? What is happening? What's occurring? And what's the elephant in the room?
Well, I saw a report out yesterday that I think it was 29% reduction in fertility from women who took the shots. I mean, that says a lot right there, right?
Exactly right. And just look at the population data that was released here just last week. We're in a decline in our population for the first time and never before. And why is that? Why is that occurring? And Bill Gates is, he succeeded.
Yeah.
And he is succeeding in this. And that's his whole agenda, was to lower the population. It's no coincidence. I mean, you have top advisors in France back in the 80s that talk about the greatest concern is the population growth. And so you have these top elitists, that think that they need to be the gods or play God here and lower the population. And then they think that we're idiots, that we don't realize what's going on here. It's an insult to our intelligence.
Oh, it really is. So I'm a caveman. What is epigenetics?
Epigenetics.
Epigenetics. Sorry.
So epigenetics is basically, to give you an example, we are told that we're sick because of bad genes, bad germs, or bad luck. And, that's just bad science. Science is really looking through the lenses of observation. And so I look at, and I ask the question, why do we get sick? And then really what makes us healthy? And so, we can blame genetics, like Down syndrome or cystic fibrosis, on genetics. 1 to 2% of pathology can be tied back to genetics. Okay, but really, if we don't have a genetic pathology, we have an epigenetic, which is like the terrain theory. Really, it's the expression of genes. And so every choice we make, is our level of health, is the genetic expression of how we eat, how we move, how we think, how we pray, how we relate. And so it's like the genes might set the table, but the lifestyle, the choices we make, cooks the meal, if that makes any sense at all. That's the
epigenetic. Yeah, it totally makes sense. Yeah, so that would include everything the Maha movement is doing, right? Food,
yes,
chemicals.
It's all the environment we live in. Our level of health is all dependent upon how we, like I said, eat, move, think, pray, relate, and the environment that we live in. Our body adapts its physiology to meet the load it's under. That's called allostatic load. And it's all about physiology, making sure that we're in a good environment and making good choices. Every choice we make is either leading us towards health and wellness or sickness and disease, and the choice is ours. And that's what it's all about. We can't rely on the government when it comes to our health. We can't rely on big pharma. They only profit when we are sick. And so they don't want to cure disease. They want to manage it. And so we have to focus on good choices and taking health in our own hands and taking care of our body. That's what it's all about.
So how are we doing with the new administration, in your opinion?
I think there's a lot of good that's coming about. I mean, there's a lot of good, but there are some concerns of mine. I do have concerns, and I think it's healthy to critique the government, and we need to be able to have thick skin here and welcome critique, and that will shift the direction. I'm not a big fan of all this AI stuff coming our way. I'm not a big fan of all this AI globalization, this $500 billion AI, and I'm not a fan of this mRNA technology, and I'm not a fan of all the vaccine talks. And I'm thankful that we fired all 17 members of the ACIP, but we need to eradicate this organization. The ACIP has done nothing good. And really just eradicate that division, save some money, cut the cost, and move on.
We're back from Istanbul direct live, and we're producing on the fly here. Thanks for bearing with us. I just wanted to highlight what Dr. Tapper said, and we'll have more from the wellness company going forward, but we have talked a lot about the emergency travel kits. We had a situation here with our team in Istanbul where someone got sick from the food, and we opened our emergency travel kit, and lo and behold, there was medication for that kind of thing, and they were able to get relief and continue working. So we are just another live example of how the wellness company can help you and your family. So spend some time on the site, twc.health/CDM, promo code CDM, and you can get 10% off. So thanks for supporting our sponsors. It's really a great company, and they have some great products. Now I want to get to the star of the show. Pete Blaber is coming in on our Ukraine SitRep. He is a former elite special operations commander. So welcome, Pete. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Yep, great to be here, and great to see you in Istanbul, Todd.
Yeah, man, we're dodging the call to prayer here. So if it comes on again, then we'll just take a break. But good to see you, Pete. You've got a lot to go through. I've got all your videos teed up. So tell me how you want to go on this Ukraine SitRep.
Yeah, we want to just give our viewers an update on what's going on the ground. Of course, the backdrop is, these last couple of weeks, really, President Trump first announced a 50-day deadline for a ceasefire and then cut it down to either 10 or 12. I'm not sure. I checked the dates and they're all over the place. You and I, this is, ties into what we've been talking about. The advice he's getting, it makes you scratch your head. In this latest piece, I keep hoping there's a secret understanding between President Trump and President Putin about what they're doing, but it does not seem that way. We heard Kellogg come out yesterday saying, Russia won't agree to a ceasefire, but Ukraine's ready at the drop of a hat. And Keane, another guy who has the president's ear, same thing, same talking points. We'll get to it toward the end, but there's Lindsey Graham's at it again. There's a Senate bill that's being crafted. Again, I'll talk about that at the end, but I want to start it with a on the ground video of a Russian soldier. And it's just an amazing interview. And for our viewers, it's exactly what we're missing by the lack of press, the zero press coverage from the ground in the Ukraine war. And just listen to what this guy has to say is pretty amazing. So, yeah, go ahead.
Вроде русский, но может быть украинский.
Да.
Ага.
Так вообще, как бы, тыл, грубо говоря, тыловая часть наша. Но, я же говорю, тут кто кого переобдурит.
Ага.
Так что...
Вас тут как миллимет команда, да? Вас как команда, вас работа миллимет, да?
Да.
Ага.
Да.
Вы откуда?
Местный.
Местный тоже местный?
Не с этого района, а так вообще, с ЛНР местный. Мы все, нас
Вы был
все местные.
гражданский украинский, да? Украин.
До 14-го года. В 14-м же как началось, все закончилось.
И почему все начало? 14.
Майдан. Все. 13-й год, когда эти беспорядки, Майданы, там вся эта чепуха. У нас же здесь ни хрена ж не было, мы ж работали. Вот, шахтер, я шахтер.
И что вы говорите, когда западные США, Европа, и они все сказать, русские оккупанты здесь, Луганск и Донбасс? Что вы могу сказать за это слово?
Почему оккупант? Да не оккупант. К этому все и шло. Это ж не так, что вчера порешали, сегодня это все произошло. Это ж на протяжении сколько там? 8 лет. И опять же, безграмотная политика, я это так не люблю. Кто-то лишнее сказал, кто-то вместо того, чтобы послушать еще раз, просто взял и началось давайте так. Хотели бы мира, ничего бы этого не было. Был же разговор, чтобы было в составе Украины без изменений границ. Не захотели же. Пенсии, давайте так, пенсии моему отцу не Россия перекрывала, а Украина. У меня отец по-честному отработал с Украины с 91 года при Украине до 14 года при Украине. У меня отец честно заработал пенсию. Но что-то Украина ему перестала ее платить, а Россия платит. Давайте объективно.
Back to you, Pete.
Yeah.
So that was a good Ukrainian who's fighting for Russia, essentially, or someone who is living in Donbass.
Well, He's an Eastern Ukrainian
Right.
or an ethnic Russian who's from Luhansk and Donetsk, and he's a soldier. And they're back now. He's right there on the border of Luhansk and Donetsk, where the fighting is. But I mean, talk about just the guy on the ground first, and it's why everyone needs to hear it. First, he tells you from the guy on the ground perspective what happened. The war started in 2014 when Russia, under the control of the EU and the Biden administration, overthrew the duly elected president of Ukraine, and then began this war on eastern Ukraine, where all the ethnic Russians live. A genocidal bombardment, random bombardment for 7 years.
Let
of
me
Eastern
interrupt.
Ukraine.
You said Russia started Maidan. It was Ukraine who was behind Maidan. Yeah.
Yeah, it was I misspoke then. It was EU and the US who ran Maidan. He gives this perspective, which is accurate, and you can watch it on videos all over YouTube, that everything was normal in eastern Ukraine. There was no uprising in eastern Ukraine. Now, Yanukovych was from Donetsk, so he was a politician who grew up there. He pledged his neutrality. He was not going to favor Russia or the EU. He was going to be neutral to both. But everything worked. Everything was normal in eastern Ukraine. And then Maidan, the overthrow of the government, and the civil war started, which turned into an ethnic war against the ethnic Russians. Poroshenko, who was the junta president that was appointed, he cut off pensions, so all retirement pay to retirees. He outlawed the Russian language, and as you know, with the Russian Orthodox Church, also put a cap on attendance to church and began closing churches. So this is the human rights violations that Lavrov talks about all the time. But over 7 years, 14,000 people were killed, almost all of them by random artillery and rocket strikes. And this guy, Patrick Lancaster, who deserves so much credit for being an independent journalist, this is what he does. He just walks around on the front, gets delivered, and that is the front right there, and sticks microphones in front of soldiers' faces and asks them questions. And you get this raw knowledge of what's really going on, what really happened. And
you don't see that anywhere, Pete. We've seen nothing. No war footage, nothing. Zip.
Yeah.
That's it.
How about that? Yeah. Has anyone even showed a Ukrainian, a ad lib, on the fly interview with a Ukrainian soldier? No, there's none. And the fact that we at least get, we have one journalist who is back on the Russian side is amazing. But that guy, another fact that 99.9% of people who are aware of the Ukraine war are not aware of, and that's that so far almost the entire war has been fought on eastern Ukraine. All the destruction you see is ethnic Russian homes, businesses, and churches and communities. That's ethnic Russian cities. So when they're fighting in them, the Ukrainians are the invading force. The Russians are the liberating force. And many of these Donetsk and Luhansk citizens are fighting on the Russian side. They always wanted to stay in Ukraine. The vote in 2014 was for autonomy because they had none. The president was kicked out, and in came the neo-Nazis, occupying 5 of the key ministries of the government. So all they wanted was autonomy, and then that became untenable due to the continuous attacks, the deaths, the destruction. And in 2022, when talks fell apart, they declared their independence. And that's what's going on. This is not Russia stealing oblasts or regions. These are people who live there rising up and saying, we do not want any part of a government that tries to kill us and take away our human rights. And so again, tip my hat to Patrick Lancaster. That interview should be saved. It's just an amazing testimony to the truth. And that's the thing about all these propagandists. Just like the Russian collusion lie, it can't last. Truth always overwhelms, and there's so much evidence out there to show these propaganda lies, and that will continue to come out. But we can do our part by showing it right now.
Yeah, for sure. And, Zelenskiy is out this morning, and we were going to put up an article. We've just been too busy dealing with sources and everything here in Turkey. But Zelenskiy is calling that there has to be a regime change in Russia now. I mean, do they really think they're going to pull a color revolution in Moscow? I mean, I don't know. I guess they can try. They tried in 2016 with Hillary Clinton, but,
So we'll think about that too, Todd. It shows again, we highlighted the problems with Kellogg, who's in Kyiv right now, and him passing information back to Trump. So just those words from Zelenskiy, just that demand. I also saw him make that video on his little, Zoom call, whatever. It shows there's no possibility. A ceasefire is not going to do anything. He wants regime change in Russia, which is, again, farcical. Those aren't the issues. The issues go back to what we just covered in eastern Ukraine, what used to be eastern Ukraine, and the human rights violations and the autonomy and independence of those oblasts. But what he said just shows he has no interest in meeting halfway, in trying to find a peace and trying to live in peace, which is what Russia wants. And so it just goes back to, what is this craziness about a ceasefire? Why a ceasefire does nothing. It stops bullets for a short period of time. It's not a peace. It does nothing for the future of either country. And when you hear that out of him, the Russians would be crazy to even attempt a peace to placate Trump or the EU. So again, he's just an insurmountable obstacle to peace. So pretending that it's Russia dragging their feet, not Ukraine, is again just a giant propaganda lie that is easily disproven by listening to Zelenskiy each morning.
So you've got some other videos here. Which one did you want to play next? The Newt Gingrich one?
I mean, do you have the Newt Gingrich one?
Yeah.
I think that's
I'll play this now.
Good one, because it just shows again.
He's going to have to look at the wall and realize he's not going to win. And the question is, how big a loss does he want to take? And does he agree early, or does he allow the Ukrainians to regain the advantage and allow gradually the Russian people to break up, just because the number of casualties they're going to take if we get serious is going to be terrifying.
So
the number of casualties that Russia's going to take if we get serious. That's what he just said.
Newt's we've outed Newt in our Georgia paper many times. He's just become a mouthpiece for the corporate, industrial complex. Whatever corporate, interest is on the table, he's for it. So there you go.
But again, it's just it's almost criminal, because the implications of being wrong here, which we are, is nuclear war, and that's not like some pie in the sky thing anymore. The EU and the NATO route have already, with words, declared their readiness to let missiles fly with Russia. And now we have, Americans, Lindsey Graham is saying the same thing Newt Gingrich is, threatening Russia, telling them, you better watch it. We're going to really, if we lay into this thing, you're in big trouble. And, even
It's just
that
insane.
is,
I mean, it's just insane.
it is insane. It's like watching World War One happen again,
Totally.
and
I
knowing
said
the
that
history
earlier.
of it, or
Yeah.
being bound and gagged on the deck of the Titanic when you
Yes.
know there's an iceberg up ahead. It's crazy. So there's that one. Then we always show the conscript ones. I think that's another good one, just to continue to show what's going on the ground, and then that protest one.
Before we do that, I just want to highlight the Mearsheimer interview on Tucker last night. He really went into exactly that these people are desperate to continue this war, and so they're okay with nuclear war. Desperate people do desperate things, and their whole world view, their whole career, their whole money machine could collapse, and so they're okay with popping some nukes off. We can control it, they say, which is absolutely crazy. But here is the mobilization interview or video you're talking about, and it's a Ukrainian dressed up as a woman, I think, trying to get out of the country, right? So here we go.
Чим ви хотіли вас здивувати? Ну, і що це нормально ви вважаєте? Куди прямуєте? На струмок. Звідки їдете? Виходимо.
Well, you said desperate men make desperate moves, and but it's we're laughing in jest, but it's just to show
laughable.
again.
Yeah.
No, that's what's happening on the ground. There, any technique that they can use to get out, they're using, and we have a whole bunch of other tapes where captured prisoners are saying there's no young men left. There's none. You can walk through Kyiv, and again, the last time I talked to my buddy on the ground there was 3 days ago, and he said the same. There's no young men out. You can go into a bar at nighttime, and it's all women. They just do not come out in public, and most of them have already, through whatever rat line, left the country. So again, it shows the equation. I don't know if do you have that tape of the protests going around the country?
Yeah, I'll play.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, just pick one out. And but these protests are going on all over Ukraine, and they're protesting Zelenskiy, corruption, and as by proxy, the war. Ukrainians want peace. They want the war to end. 75% of those polled say they want negotiations and peace. And that's just people who've had enough, and people who don't understand what they're fighting for. Of course they don't, because even in America, we don't understand what they're fighting for because it's been covered up by massive propaganda lies. So go ahead.
What we've done to the Ukrainian people is just really criminal. But here we go. It's all women.
Yep, good observation. It is, and but just the fact they're out, protesting all across Ukraine. That was a very dangerous thing to do just a few months ago. But now you've got the majority of the country feeling the same way. So you have local police and other government officials who are saying, "Hey, just let it go." It's like when we showed those pictures of the conscripts. Some of these guys are very gentle with the conscripts because they're like, "Hey, I get it, but this is my job. I got to do it." So, the propagandists are the only ones cheering this war on. And, what's going on with the 10-day deadline. And yesterday, Trump on social media got into a thing with Medvedev, calling the Russian economy a dead economy. And, hey, he better watch what he says. It's just hard to believe. And Here's what I'd
There's,
say
there's
to
no
President
there's
Trump.
no upside. There's no upside for Trump. But go ahead.
No, there's not. But here's what I'd say to him. I tell him, President Trump, the same people who overthrew the duly elected government of Ukraine and who started this war, who allowed this strategy of let's humanitarianly cleanse eastern Ukraine of ethnic Russians so that we can take over all of eastern Ukraine, and it's the breadbasket of Europe as well as natural resource center of Europe. The same people, Biden, Brennan, Blinken, Sullivan, Newland, they started this war. This is their war. The foolishness of what they did is why Ukraine lost Crimea and why they are about to lose 4 other oblasts. They allowed it. By Trump now allowing Kellogg to have us as a country take sides with Ukraine, he is by proxy supporting Brennan's war and Biden's war. Because if there are 2 guys who were the architects of this war, it's John O'Brien and Joe Biden. And Jay Sullivan is, Biden's action guy. They're the architects of all of this from 2013 forward. And so it's even more surprising that President Trump have anything to do with the continuation of this war to support Ukraine, which is the Ukrainian people. We could support them by stopping the war, not by sending more weapons.
There's and I don't remember if we talked about it last time, but there was a push by Zelenskiy to remove NABU, which is the National Anti-Corruption Bureau. And I had met with Artem Sitnik, who ran that bureau, and they're just an arm of Soros. So I kind of think that this is these protests are the end of Zelenskiy. I think the blob wants Zelenskiy gone because I think they see him as a problem. You wouldn't be seeing these protests, in my opinion, unless the apparatus in Ukraine was going to allow it. And that means Zelenskiy's in trouble, in my view. This is my take of this. What do you think of that?
I think it's accurate. I think that not only is it Soros controlled, it's EU controlled.
Yeah.
And, from the Russian side, they just call it external control of Ukraine. And in fact it is, but it's there by necessity. From the beginning, Ukraine, the corruption from the very first dollars that began flowing, I think $5 billion by Victoria Nuland, to not only fund Maidan, but the initial months under the new government, $5 billion. From that moment on, it's been a massive money laundering slush fund game. And they put the NOBU in there on purpose, the NUBU in there on purpose, because it was supposed to monitor that so that EU money would not be stolen. So they knew where the money was going. Whether they keep it or get rid of it, it's damned if they do, damned if they don't. But totally agree. I told you I talked to someone who was on the ground 3 days ago, and I said, "Hey, what about the protest?" He said, "Yeah, that's pretty amazing." I said, What does it look like to you? What are the people? He goes, "Oh, they're fake, 100% fake. It's the same. They just dusted off the color revolution, playbook. They use the same Facebook addresses that they use for Maidan. Same people. You get money. You meet at a place. You get your $50 for the day. You get a sign, and you go out there and you protest." So it's definitely run by Soros, again, Soros group on the ground. But it's hard to separate him from the EU at this point, as far as control, and the U.S. blob, that is still operating unbeknownst to President Trump the way they were before he came into office.
So there might be a glimmer of hope here if maybe they want to get rid of Zelenskiy because they need a they need an off ramp, and they can blame everything on Zelenskiy, take him down, and say, okay, we're going to make peace now, and it's okay. But I don't know. I mean, that's just, to me, it's obvious what's happening. I just don't know the end game as to what they're trying to do. But I'm always suspect because nothing happens there without it being sanctioned by the blob, if you will. Anyway,
Agreed.
What else, Pete? We got anything else?
No, just again, we hoping that giving President Trump the benefit of the doubt that he's got some idea where he's going, but really looks dire. As far as the direction we're going, the words we're exchanging, and the fact that nothing's happened with Kellogg, Keene, Hodges, all of these retired general paid propagandists. It's and again, the analogy I think is accurate. It's like knowing what happened in World War I before it happened and not being able to stop it, or being bound and gagged on the deck of the Titanic, because we're going down the exact opposite direction on the road that we should be going. And it's a very dangerous direction with massive consequences if things go wrong. And so it makes no sense, but all we can do is keep trying to get the truth out there.
Yeah, Trump's first instincts were correct. I wish he would go back to those and stop listening to the liars around him. That would be my hope. Well, Pete, thank you very much. We'll have you back next week. Appreciate it, man.
Sounds good, Todd. Take care.
Take care. The bird flu is circulating. We're getting more and more press, more fear mongering, more warnings about this. First, let's start with that. What say you on?
Well, what I say is it specifically is not circulating. It's in animals. There's one human, maybe two transmissions, no human to human transmission. And stand by, everybody. If there is some sort of sudden human to human transmission, you should immediately be suspicious that gain of function was involved with that. Just the fact that they're taking an animal virus and going nuts on it in the press and talking about it all the time, that to me leads me to believe that they have concerns that somebody is doing something with that virus, because this would not happen naturally, in my opinion.
Our world is changing rapidly. Many crucial systems we depend upon are collapsing. And the most important system that is failing is the food supply.
Mr. President, this Council is more than aware of the multiple challenges and threats the world is facing today. But the threat of famine, people starving slowly to death, must be a red line.
These food prices are going to keep going up and up, and they're going to keep feeding excuse after excuse, narrative after narrative.
Yeah.
Where you're going to have to get off that treadmill and start getting more autonomous with your own food growing.
You want to make sure that you can eat, because frankly, food is the biggest issue as we are going through these transitions.
But amidst the chaos, there is a path to resilience. Marjorie Wildcraft is the female leader of the survival and preparedness movement. Marjorie has taught millions of people how to grow an abundance of food in a grid-down situation, even if you have no experience, are older, or out of shape.
I've spent decades finding the fastest, easiest, and funnest ways for the average person to be able to grow a lot of food. I've created a step-by-step process that's so simple that even kids to elders have been using it in order to grow a lot of their own food. And you can too, even if you have no experience, you're older, or you're out of shape.
Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Get started today.
Welcome back to the SCIF. We're coming to you live from Istanbul, where we're reporting on the attacks on Christianity around the globe, and especially here in Central Asia. There'll be more on that coming in the next few days as we wrap up a lot of the content we've been creating here, and so stay tuned for that. But one of our most talented writers is Kat Stansell at the Miami Independent, and that is miamiindependent.com. She has been early and a frequent writer about the corruption in the Republican Party of Florida, and there's no better source than her on what's going on there. And I want to bring her in now. Hi, Kat. How are you? Can you hear me, Kat? Maybe take off. Are you muted, possibly? Well, Kat, maybe drop out and come back in. Maybe that will help. I don't know if it's because we're overseas or what, but well, we're having trouble with Kat. We'll see if she can get it fixed here. But we are going to be talking about Central Asia and the attacks on Christianity in depth. And you know what? I'll probably just do a recording with Kat later at another date, because it doesn't seem like we're getting connected here. Well, Kat, if you're there, send me an email as to what you want to do, but because I can't hear you, so I don't know why that is, and you're not on mute. So we'll just have to try again, Kat. I'm sorry. So I'll call you offline. So we'll be back, Kat. I'll talk to you later. So I'm sorry about that. Not sure why that is, but we've been having issues with her as far as her communications. But we are on the fly here, so I'm just going to talk real quick about MyPillow. If you have a kid going to school, or you have gifts you need to get for Christmas, it's not too early, go to mypillow.com, use promo code CDM, and you can look around the site and see what he has. He has over 600 products: slippers, jammies, bedding, towels, sheets, dog pillows, all kind of things. So just check out what Mike has. Don't go to the big box retailers. Shop from mypillow.com and use promo code CDM, and you'll get the best discounts. I'm going to give a few seconds to see if Kat comes back in. But other than that, our other sponsor is Nucleo Boost. You saw the ad for Nucleo. We're on the ground here, and the way we are going 24/7 here, and the way we do that is with Nucleo Boost. If you go to cdmnutrition.com, you can find out everything about our way to stay healthy, to fill the potholes in your body using Nucleo Boost. Check out the subscriptions. It's cheaper, but go to cdmnutrition.com. This is really starting to sell a lot. And, you know, we're taking it here daily. So we're taking the capsules. We brought those on the road because we didn't know if we'd have the ability to mix the yogurt in the smoothies, or the powder and the yogurt in the smoothies. But you can get it in capsule form, or you can get the powder. I love the powder. My wife loves the capsules. That's just the way they roll. So it looks like I don't see Kat coming back in. So you know what? We're going to close the show out here a little early. Live from Istanbul. We'll be back tomorrow again. Maybe we'll try Kat again, but we'll have a full show tomorrow. So much going on, just crazy right now on the global stage. Thank you for joining us. Check us out on podcasts. Oh, I forgot to say hello to everyone in the comment section, in the chat. Thank you so much for all the engagement. That's just fantastic. A lot today. I see all of it. And check out whatfinger.com if you need a place to go for your news aggregator globally after you go to cdm.press daily, several times a day, hopefully. Anyway, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow on the SCIF, Monday through Friday, 10 to noon Eastern.